once you start, you can't stop. Although, folks, hopefully you see our slide. This is our first State of the Union that we've done online. We didn't intend to. We don't like having to do this. We'd like to see you all face to face again one day soon. But until that time, we thought we would catch you up on the State of the Union, because it's been a year since, at least jazz attendees had even seen it. This cute logo for our slide deck is another canceled session that we were going to have that was going to be awesome, but that had to go by the wayside. But guess what? State of the Union doesn't have to go by the wayside. And we're going to do it. We're going to give away a laptop. Tweet something out to MMS, MOA. Before the end of this session, we'll kind of watch Twitter, and whoever gives the coolest, most fun tweet, arbitrarily decided by me, wins a laptop. And it's a sexy one. It's a $3,000 laptop. Awesome, blah, blah, blah. If you live in Europe, it costs us a lot of money to send it there, and you might have to pay some taxes, so know that. During this session, we have a Q&A going in the right-hand column. We want you to try to use a Q&A for just clarification questions while the main session is on. If you know MMS, you know that what we do is a big long session and then a big long Q&A. We're going to kind of follow that again today. We'll give you a lot of content and we'll bust up for a lot of Q&A. The second Q&A, when you put questions in there, that one we're going to try to give you a nice, long, in-depth answer, from a speaker. So just try to use it that way if you can. I think that's it. And then when this gets done, we're going to go to a happy hour. If you still want to hang around and chat because you miss people, I do. But that's got a 300-person limit, so not all of you will be able to attend. 1,221 of you signed up. 439 of you have shown up so far. So not all of you would be able to make it to the happy hour. And we'll give that link out at the end of the meeting as well, how to get in there. So don't ask in the Q&A what's the happy hour link, because we're not going to give it to you to the end of the session. That being said, who is on deck? Kent?
I am. So, to all of you, very warm welcome to MMS 2020 State of the Union. I think before we start, maybe we should just give a little introduction, and David, if we can start with you and your team.
Sure. My name is David James. I'm a Director of Engineering for Desktop Analytics, Configuration Manager, based on Microsoft Endpoint Manager. And I think this is my 6th time coming to MMS State of the Union. So excited to be here.
Thanks for coming.
Jason?
Okay, I'll go. I was just going to go in order, but that's okay. Jason Sandys. So I am part of Microsoft now. I joined the CAT team back in March. So the CAT team is an extension of the engineering team. So I have the pleasure of working with lots of interesting folks on a day-to-day basis, hopefully making things better for everyone in the world. But that's for you to decide.
And Rob?
Hey, everyone. I'm Rob York. I'm a program manager on the Microsoft Endpoint Manager team. I focus on everything cloud attached, so tenant attached, co-management, cloud management gateway, and also some slightly less cloudy things like operating system deployment and the config manager client.
Awesome. And did we get Githens in, or is he joining us? He's joining us later?
He's still joining
later.
Okay, perfect. Kim,
yeah,
my friend.
Hi, I'm Kim, consultant at OSCC. Attended every single MMS that has happened, including all the online ones. Looking forward to having a real in-live event as soon as possible.
Yeah, and yeah, thanks, Kim. So my name is Kent, and I'm currently stuck in Denmark for, I think it's like 8 straight months now. And here I spent my time working with all kind of enterprise client management. And I still remember our first State of the Union. Kim and I were delivering that, and in the middle of everything, David just walked up. So that was like my pulse there went from 75 to 145, because normally when we present here, and I mean, we being a European, Kim and I have noticed over the last couple of years that a good story is much more important than facts. But if you don't stick to facts and you have David James walking up the aisle, then you could be in trouble. But for this webinar here, we promise you that facts will not play a huge role in what we're about to say. Instead, we will try to do our best to keep it entertaining and yet make sure that it's educative. And we in the beginning here is Kim and I.
So what happened since the last State of the Union, and one of the thing is, as Kent said, Kent and I have done the very first State of the Union, and I've done a couple since with Jason Sandys, another one of the presenters on this call. And as Jason said and introduced, he moved to Microsoft. And Kent already said that he and I are both European, which gets us into a little bit of trouble in preparing these slides, because one of the things that not a lot of people know is Jason typically beautifies all these slides with those tiny little icons that he adds and eye candy. So I've done that now, which kind of explains that little icon you might see at the bottom. When I started typing in facts, that's the icon that came up. Now, I had this this dude from Miami, which I kind of did a dry run with, that said, hey, the reason that shows up as an icon for fact is because it's a factory. So I'm not all that good as Jason with all of this icon stuff. Now, so Jason moved to Microsoft, so he's still in the State of the Union, and Kent is now joining the community part of it. There's quite a few interesting rumors going on around Jason moving from his previous employer to his new employer, Microsoft. One of those rumors is that he didn't get along with his boss. And one of the things that made that relationship even further troublesome is that apparently I've been told that Liverpool was set to win the league for the first time in 75 years, and that was the drop for Jason to work for a boss that's a huge Liverpool fan. So that's one of the rumors. Now, there's some rumors. There's definitely some facts around Jason leaving for Microsoft as well. And well, facts are proven by numbers, so I'll share my screen now and just show you the numbers explaining what happened when Jason moved to Microsoft. Jason moved to Microsoft, and then this happened. All right, so you can see Microsoft actually made a pretty good deal. So you could expect that his previous employer wasn't all that happy. Now, interestingly enough, this is what happened when Jason left his previous employer. There you go. So both got a great deal, apparently. Not sure how that worked out. But that's one of the things that that happened since our last State of the Union. It's probably the biggest thing that happened since our previous State of the Union. So let's switch to the regular slides again.
Yeah.
So other things that happened since the State of the Union, and I'll shut up after that. There's this interesting rumor, Kent, that since the last State of the Union, you started referring to your home address again in street names and zip codes as opposed to window, aisle, business, or economy. What's up with that?
I have no idea. but I find it really interesting because people now, they start to say hello to me in the morning when I wake up in this house here. So that's kind of cool. They seem familiar when I have breakfast with them. So that's also a new feeling. So with I think with that, and Kim, I thought you and I had the same notes, but apparently not. So what we are going to do here in the first part is Kim and I, we will be, on behalf of the community, we'll be sharing our list, our top list of, what are the coolest community features that we have seen within the last year. It can be an old feature, but still being out there, being used by many. What are some of the cool new features we have seen in the CM releases? And we have a couple of additional top 5 lists here, but we'll begin with the community tools here. So this is our top 5 list, and Kim, be my guest for the first one here.
So I'm your guest for the first one? Oh yeah, right. Indeed. That's well, the very first one is the driver automation tool. It keeps on evolving. Maurice keeps on making new versions and introducing new functionality. It's based on I think something that started 2-3 years ago. When the community at large started discussing a new way of handling drivers in a much more dynamic way inside OS deployment and inside Configuration Manager. I did one of the blog posts around that on how to make that as dynamic as possible and eliminating some of the drawbacks of using embedded driver packages that are used as objects in CM. And Maurice built an incredible tool around how to automate and assist you in using that new model, or it can actually use all the regular driver packages in CM as well, if that still tickles your fancy. That's one of the reasons why this is in our top 5, and the top 5 is in no particular order, but it's one of those tools, and all of the tools inside this top 5, as far as I'm concerned, have that keeps on evolving.
Cool. The next tool we have is the TS background from Johan SCHREWELIUS. And this tool is not, it's not the biggest of tools that we have seen, but it's really cool at doing exactly what it's doing. So this is like to replace, BG info as a wallpaper generator during your OS deployments here. So it doesn't do a whole lot for you, but what it does is pretty neat. And we have also seen this tool being around for, I think, if I remember correctly, more than a year by now, and we have also seen several releases of this, and it's just kind of cool. And one of the things that making the 75-minute wait worth a bit here. So you can go, install image or sleep for 7 minutes, apply drivers, and you go, oops, oh, awesome, and then set up Windows and so on. So that's kind of why this one here made the list. Having said that, I've also seen it cause issues at least once. So if you all of a sudden see some stuff around, things stop downloading, your task sequence just stops. Just a good advice, if you have the TS background, integrated, try to remove it and test your image deployment again. It might save you 38 hours of consulting, just saying. Another tool here that
background though, if I just may, Kent,
absolutely.
I actually emailed Johan, so I want to give him a big shout out here. I actually emailed Johan last Friday with a feature request, and he just implemented it over the weekend and had a mail back with a new version to test on Sunday. I'm not going to spill the beans on the feature, and I'll let Johan put out a blog post or something similar to what he added. But he's really, really responsive. That's
the impact you have on folks, Kim, right?
Yeah, it's all me. That'll be it.
Yeah, and I think I actually I heard a rumor just before we started that Microsoft is going away from user voice, and then they're just opening up for the very same feature request there. So just send a mail, and then within a week you should see, you know, your feature implemented in the new build there. It might just be a rumor, but I'm pretty sure I've heard it somewhere. I have a lot of voices in my head, so it could be one of them. Okay, so the next one is JSON's UI++, and this one here has gotten a lot of love over the years here, but it's still high on our list this year as well. When I go to and talk to customers or user groups, I still see and hear a lot of peoples and administrators, you know, downloading and taking advantage of this, and this is, I mean, a big shout out to Jason, because he's really trying to make task sequences user friendly, and that's I mean that's pretty neat. So that's been around, as I said, for a couple of years, and I'm pretty sure, you know, with his new 15-hour-a-week job, that he will have plenty of time to come up with a new release shortly. Kim, my friend.
Okay. Oh, since we were talking rumors, I've heard this other rumor on UI++. Apparently, it was cheaper for Microsoft to hire the author than to buy the source code of the tool. Not sure whether there's any truth in that, but so another one of those tools, a pretty new one, is WimWich from DONNA, which is a tool that helps you eliminate the need for build and capture by servicing your image offline. But servicing it not just with software updates, because we can do that inside the product, but servicing it with all sorts of things. Adding multi-language, adding the .NET frameworks, removing built-in applications. There's a bunch of customization, and DONNA has done an amazing job at building a tool with a UI that makes this as user-friendly as possible. WimWich as a concept is pretty similar to the next one on our list. The next one on our list, Kent, that was your cue to move. Yes, which is OS Builder, which does pretty similar things, but is completely PowerShell based. Although WimWich is PowerShell based, but OS Builder is more PowerShell command line based, which is great if you want to completely automate all of this automation. So two very, very similar tools, which is why the people that can actually count will notice that this top 5 list actually has 6 entries, because we put OS Builder and WimWich as one concept, as tooling from the communities.
Exactly, and this the last one we have here, and you know, Gary Town, the dynamic duo. There you have Gary and Mike, and what can we say that hasn't already been said about Gary? I mean, we want him for president. That's it. And if you have standards for your president that we don't understand, then that's okay. Then we will just, you know, we'll just arrange for him to be King of Belgium. I don't know, Kim. That shouldn't be a problem, right?
No objections whatsoever.
No, and this and the thing about Gary Town, if you haven't, you know, if you haven't been on the blog here, we're not talking about a single tool here. We are talking about what I would call more or less a framework around your in-place upgrades. So you will find a lot of code snippets up here. You will find a lot of good explanations. You will find a lot of references to other blog posts from Mike Terrell. So when you are doing your in-place upgrades, I can guarantee you will find a ton of inspiration up here. It's really worth your time. So Gary for president, and I think, you know, it will just become a better world. And again, I think we're like 10 years from needing a new queen in Denmark, or otherwise it could be King of Belgium. Cool. So in no particular order, but you know, we talked about modern driver management, the TS background, UI++, WinWedge OS Builder, and then Gary Town in here. So that was kind of our first top 5 list. Let's move on with the top 5 new features that we have seen in CM 2002 and 2006 here, and I'm still amazed. I'm still amazed by the amount of features that are being released every single year. I mean, I remember when the first version of Current Branch was released, I was like, okay, that's really great, but can they keep it up? You know, can they keep on, you know, developing new features, being creative, and what have you? And I would say the first feature here on the list is really creative. If you ask me, you know, removal of the CAS. And it's not because we're doing that on a weekly basis, but I mean, we have talked about this in you know, the last 4 or 5 MMSs here. The CAS has caused some of you headaches, and now we finally have a way of removing that. The second one here, the token-based authentication for CMG, it's not the biggest feature maybe in 2002, but it made it on our list because it's really kind of filling one of the gaps we had with the cloud management gateway. So here, you know, enabling us to install the config manager client over the CMG in other scenarios where we, you know, didn't have any certificates. So it could be like a server DMC, for instance. It could be, you know, there are different scenarios, but I've used it for mainly for servers here. Another one that I really love, I mean, that's tenant attach, and tenant attach is not to be confused with co-management. I hear that a lot, and now, you know, Rob might later on say, well, tenant attach is part of co-management. So what I'm telling you right now is that, you know, to me, it's 2 different features here. I mean, with tenant attach, I get an ability to sync my devices to the endpoint manager admin center, and those could be servers. Right, so all of a sudden, you know, I have my servers in the admin center. I can see some basic information about the server. I can do some basic administrative task here. And as a matter of fact, if let me just show you. So we actually have a little demo here. So this is my admin center, and I'll just zoom in a bit. And what I have here is I just have my own device. Now I said that tenant attach is not the same as co-managed devices, and yet you can see here that my device is co-managed. And the thing is, when I co-manage a device, it will end up in admin center, as some of you probably know, as being co-managed. But when I tenant attach the very same device, instead of creating 2 devices, well, we actually do have 2 devices for a short period, but then they're kind of merged, so something goes on in the background here. But having a tenant attached device allows me to do a couple of really cool things. So if I look out here to my left, I have the ability to run a CM pivot. So, you know, we all know CM pivots. We all are completely and madly in love with CM pivot, and we all hope that this here will actually show up. There you go. So now what I can do is I can run, oops, that wasn't the right one. I thought I had that in my clipboard. That was really bad, but that was actually a comment from earlier on. So if I just run that, I mean, CM pivot here. Now remember, this is the endpoint manager admin center. CM pivot is usually something we run through the CCM agent, and with the admin center and tenant attach, we're actually still doing that. So if I look here in my, let's see here if it's actually, it should provide or give me a result here. So yeah, this is typical. So just testing that ahead and then changing my network, but there we go. So here we can see now it's communicating, and I can see here it's the client is on the internet, and within a few seconds here it will be, here we can see it's creating my keep alive. Successfully sent my first keep alive live message here. So hopefully within a few seconds, I shouldn't have changed. So I was on VPN before when I tested this, and then just changed my network here. So what will happen is, and there we go. So now it's running my script. It's executing my little query, and within a few seconds, hopefully, what it will do is it will just, here return the information about my free space here. So there the result is sent. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but the log files I'm looking at right now is my CCM notification log, and there it showed up. I'm looking at my scripts log, and I'm looking at my state message log. There might be other logs that is part of that, but whenever I'm testing it and I want to verify, just like I'm doing here, then these 3 log files all together, they seem to be doing the trick for me. So I can definitely see it's executing the code. I can see it's communicating back, and I have the information here that I asked for. So the tenant attach is what enables this, and I have other things that I can do in here as well that I know will have an impact and will be used by a lot. Right now it's saying applications and preview, but I mean, the many times I've been testing this, if the endpoint that I'm testing it on is actually operational, then this works perfectly. So if I look at an application like, let's just take Firefox. I know it says it's installed, but it is actually not installed. Again, what I can do here is I can do application install in real time. So right now, again, it will go ahead, initiate my application install, and this time you can see my network is operational. So it will actually take that message over the fast channel and start executing whatever I instructed it to execute. So right now, if I look in my app in force, you can see here, well, it hasn't actually started yet, but what we will see in here is that it will go ahead. Yeah.
It's kind of hard for some of us to see with our old eyes. If you have Zoom it, maybe.
Yeah, sure, I have. Just a second here.
Clever trick to stall for time.
Oh, I thought actually I should have Zoom it here. I should have it. I don't have to download it. It should be here. Yeah, that's a pretty clever. Come on. I know I have it. Anyhow, I'll get Zoom it as soon as I stop, sharing my screen here. So there, thanks for reminding me of that, because then while I was searching for Zoom it, now you can see here that the tenant attach and app delivery is actually faster than downloading and installing Zoom it, and that's something. So what happened right here, like a few seconds ago, is that it started my installation, and if I go back up here, it will probably tell me, you know, the installation is in progress. Once it's done, we will send a state message back, and it will say up here, you know, your installation is done. So
what log were you looking at? What were you showing us there? Because it still was so small.
Yeah, so for the application install, I was looking at the app enforce. So if I just see, I don't have Zoom it, but I have something called Notepad.
Notepad is amazing.
Notepad is, yeah, I learned it from a very, very wise guy once. So we had app enforce. So that's just for the installation, CCM notification. I was looking at, there's no spell checker though. I was looking at the scripts log, and finally I was just looking at the state messages log here. So so that's really what I'm using here to make sure that everything goes okay. And I mean, applications, I've used that one. As a matter of fact, earlier today we implemented that at a customer because we wanted to help Service Desk, and one of the things that they have is that they need to make sure that they can install applications in real time. And this is only one of the ways we can install it in real time. Those of you who attended MMS last year, you might have seen the session that Jason and I did about, you know, application using the console and what have you. So we have like 3 or 4 different methods that we can use to install our apps here in real time. So a lot of cool stuff. Client details, I think that will be covered a little later. But this is just another really great feature where, oops, I was really thinking about the timeline here, where I can see, you know, what event occurred on my device, on this specific device within the last number of days. So it's just gathering the information now. I can, by default, it will only show for 2 days, but I can click on the filter here and say, hey, you know what, I want to look back for the last week, and it will tell me, you know, what updates has been installed. Did you experience any, you know, sudden shutdown, and so on and so forth. And it's all information that can be helpful when you're trying to understand why a user is experiencing issues here. So, but I think that will be demonstrated a little later on. So I'll just go back to the slides here. The final one is orchestration groups, and it's actually, well, it was one of the first, if not the first, preview feature that we saw. But way back then we had some, you know, it didn't scale that well, and sometimes it didn't really work. Now it has seen, you know, a new light in 2002. Orchestration group, the ability to group, you know, more, you know. Typically, it would be multiple servers, and then make sure that they only patch 1 at a time, or 2 at a time, or 10% at the time, you know, and in between the first group is patching, then we have the ability to add in a script and make sure that, you know, we don't carry on until, you know, everything is right. So that's really neat. And for 2006, Kim?
So for 2006, well, first of all, we had the Admin Center evolutions. And that's a bunch of those things you showed in Admin Center with the device timeline, applications, resource explorers, scripts, CM pivot, all that sort of candy there. There's just no other word for all this sweetness. And very interesting in Admin Center evolutions is our product team has been amazing at bringing out new versions every 4 months, just as they promised. From 2015, they haven't missed a single release window. Every single time a new build is there. And interestingly enough, Admin Center and the integration with Tenant Attach actually allows them to give us new functionality, even at a more rapid pace and outside of those standard release windows. They can just light up new functionality directly in Admin Center without having to change anything to your SCCM on-prem infrastructure. So that's kind of neat. And the functionality it brings is just amazing. Another thing that was added in 2006 and finally moved from tech preview to the current branch build is the community hub and GitHub integration, where all of the admins and this, I think MMS has demonstrated that this is a very, very lively community, can share a bunch of different objects amongst each other with best practices and stuff they do in their environment. So Community Hub is another one of those features I'm looking forward to how it is going to evolve. And then obviously 2006 was right in the midst of this crazy pandemic that has been going on and people being working from home. So the VPN boundary type actually allowed us to build an environment in which we only cache big content when you actually visit the office. When you're over there, we actually have an OS deployment that we'll have to do in the coming months. So if you visit the office, that means the content is accessible and is not acceptable to VPN clients. So you'll cache when you're on-prem, and then whenever we need to do the actual upgrade, you'll already have the bits. That's how we're using the VPN boundary types. Oh, and yes, for the Smarty Pants looking at this slide, yes, we are aware that there's actually 7 features on this top 5 new features list.
But we don't care about facts. So Kim, what month is it right now?
I believe we're in November.
We're in November. Okay. Yes. It's just because I'm just asking because being European, I don't understand everything. But we are in November, so that's month 9.
Last time I checked, November in Europe is month 11.
11. Okay, I got that. Perfect. So let's move on here.
This is precisely the kind of European oversight that we don't want.
So we, Kim, be my guest here.
So our next top 5 is what we called the top 5 babies that finally grew up. And this is a pretty interesting list as far as Kent and I are concerned, because all 5 of these are features that have evolved quite a bit, and I've put them in a particular order. I'll start with the Cloud Management Gateway. I've been a huge fan of the Cloud Management Gateway from day one. I fought tooth and nail to people that were concerned about cost, made a bunch of different statements around it being less than the stampage cost of your company and a bunch of things like that. But the Cloud Management Gateway, especially in these times where people are actually working from home at much bigger percentages than we've ever seen, is just a huge extension to your CM environment, allowing you to do management of way more clients than you actually could without it. It's super easy to set up as far as I'm concerned. If you compare this to how you had to extend your CM environment over internet-based client management gateway functionality and opening up firewall ports and all that sort of stuff, the Cloud Management Gateway is just a breeze setting up compared to all of that complexity. So we definitely love the Cloud Management Gateway, and its evolutions have made it even easier to set up than it initially was. All right. So the second baby that grew up is real-time actions, also known as the fast channel or the BGB channel. Originally, that functionality was actually built to integrate Windows Defender back in the days where it was called Forefront, and was basically there to allow real-time actions just for antivirus functionality. If you see how much of things we can do now over that fast channel, run scripts, CM pivot, installing applications in real time, as Kent has demonstrated. There's just a ton of stuff there. A pretty interesting newcomer is the admin service feature that allows you to query CM basically as a web service. Okay. And the fourth on that list is configuration manager servicing, or the service connection point, or Weave for the people that have been around for what feels like an eternity. Weave was the original feature in CM 2012 to actually bring you new functionality to your SCCM infrastructure for Intune. So if you needed new Intune functionality, instead of having to wait for, heaven forbid, service packs back in the day, the Weave feature allowed the product team to deliver new Intune functionality towards your CM 2012, right? The service connection point looks pretty similar. It just no longer does it for just Intune content. The service connection point is how you get your new builds of current branch, right? And how you basically get the latest versions, so you can do those in-place upgrades that we've all been following at a pretty insane adoption rate. And then the top 5 babies, or the fifth one, actually started off with one of our former MVP colleagues. Ron Crumbreaker's SMS web portal was the very first time we actually saw a CM-based web portal. That then evolved into a Silverlight kind of Intune portal, which then moved to an Azure Intune portal, which eventually became the Endpoint Manager admin UI. And the reason we put all of these together as the top 5 babies that finally grew up is because the demo that Kent has just showed you uses all of this. And that's all of these separately are incredible features. But if you put them together, it's as if the stars in the universe align and make all sorts of magic possible. So what Kent did in the Endpoint Manager, he installed an application. So what happens when he installs that application through tenant attach, he actually talks through the service connection point with the admin service, which tells, as Kent neatly demonstrated by showing the logs, which tells the fast channel to actually go and do something. And as Kent equally said, his device was no longer on a VPN, but directly on the internet. So the client had to talk to the cloud management gateway to actually be able to talk to the management point to know what it had to install. And it had to talk to the cloud management gateway again to be able to get the content of the application that he was trying to install. So the top 5 babies that finally grew up, they all start working together as a big happy family to deliver things we could have never have dreamt for a decade ago when our product was still called SMS and slow management software. these things are just amazing, and it's what happened over the last, I think, 2 years. A lot of these things didn't exist 2 years ago. I'd argue that a couple of them are probably 18 months old or less.
And the most amazing part is that I did all of that faster than I could download Zoomit, and Zoomit is a very small application. So we took something that is super complex, you know, and you know, did it without, you know, having to start, you know, log into a server and all of that good stuff. So that's it is pretty amazing. So we also have, you know, keep an eye out for these newborns. Those are features that we truly believe will involve as well. Orchestration groups, as I just pointed out before. I really love the idea. And I think and hope that there will be some additional improvements, additional features added to this, because this really looks like an awesome feature here. The collection sync, Kim, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I have huge expectations for collection sync. We've been asking, demanding, praying for better dynamic targeting on the modern management field of things. We've received a couple of things, but for those of us that have grown used to the flexibility of collections, I'm afraid that whatever they give us, it'll never be enough. And collection sync basically allows you to create your dynamic Azure groups with the exact same engine that is underneath collections. So if you need dynamic grouping, collection sync is your way to actually do that. And in one of the previous State of the Unions, we've actually talked about what does co-management give you back in the day for people that are fully on-prem. If you look at what this tenant attached gives you, if you're completely modern, there's a ton of functionality that you can actually add to your systems management environment by looking at this functionality.
And it's also one of the questions you don't want to get at a customer when you're setting up you know, modern management, as you were saying. Can you just, you know, create us an Azure AD group that we can use for targeting, you know, one with all the devices we have in Belgium and in Norway? And you go like, oh how am I going to do that? And this is the answer. I mean, this is truly the answer. Cool. We have another, and this is our final top 5 list, and again I remind you about what we said in the beginning. Kim and I, we really don't worry about facts. To be honest, we really don't care about it. It makes our lives so much greater when we don't have to, you know, tell the truth all the time. But these are really, I mean, these are rumors. We have heard them in my head, and we have heard them in Kim's head. So we are both convinced that this gotta be the truth, right?
Either heard them somewhere or we just made them up.
Yeah, and it doesn't. It's the same. To me, it's the same. It's all the voices in my head here. So Kim, you take the first one.
All right. So apparently, if we didn't have this pandemic, we would have had a feature in CM that allows you to organize Twitter-like polls, and using the fast notification channel, you would have known the results of the vote in a matter of minutes. That would have been amazing. I guess we'll have to wait a little bit longer for functionality like that.
And this one here, they actually had this. I mean, they were just about to check in the code, and now they're kind of lost the source code, but they had a working WSUS server, you know, one that would never crash, one that would never run out of memory, one where the application pool would always behave and all clients would be scanning at all time. But then then came COVID, and I don't know. So do you know where the source code to the perfect WSOS server went? Because I couldn't find it. But apparently, they had it, right? But it's gone. But okay, we have loved WSOS for 20 years, so why not another 20? All yours, Kim.
Modern driver management. They were actually gonna do everything that Maurice has been doing for us and make it even better inside the product. We'll have to make do with one of the community tools for now, I'm afraid.
And another thing on the list here would be, the new awesome group policy management gateway. So, all the thousands and thousands of GPOs you have would just, magically be synchronized to the cloud. So you never ever have to create an MDM policy out there. And rumor has it that this might already be in the next release here, because I know I have about 1,800 GPOs, and I don't want to waste all that good time. I want it to be synchronized straight into the cloud, so I can benefit from those GPOs, in the years to come. So this is definitely one of the features I look forward to, but apparently it didn't make it. That's a shame. And the last one, Kim.
Lifecycle management in Endpoint Manager. We were actually gonna get GitHub integration for all of our objects, and we'd be able to roll back and see new commits and see new commit comments, because all of the admins were gonna put in meticulously correct and detailed descriptions of what they've actually changed and so on. But it isn't there just yet.
No, so who cares about documentation? So that concludes our part. So what we'll do right now is just do a quick change of guard here. I'll stop sharing my screen, and then I believe, Jason, you will be sharing your content.
Hey, before you do that, Kent, can you show slide number 1?
Those are the house rules?
No. The next slide.
There you go.
It's worth pointing out. So you got the speakers all on there, and that's pretty. We didn't. One place we didn't introduce was our sponsor, who's going to help us pay for that very expensive laptop that we're going to send out to some lucky winner here. And if you missed the beginning of the presentation, what we were saying about that was, if you tweet MMS MOA, hashtag MMS MOA, with something cool and just impress us, you're going to get a laptop. It's very expensive. Recast is going to help us pay for that, and they're sponsoring this session, and we thank them.
Absolutely.
So Microsoft, do you guys want to share?
It should be up and shared now, guys.
Yep, we see it.
Awesome. Dave, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So, doing the MMS State of the Union is always interesting, because you get two sides of the story. You get the first part, which to quote Kent and Kim, they said isn't factual. And then you get the Microsoft side that maybe is a little shrouded. So it's always good to see 2 points of view. And I like how Kent and Kim walked through kind of the year in review. It's been a crazy year for everybody for lots of reasons. So I thought, historically, I've always started with, what's happened in the last 12 months since the last MMS. So I'm going to start there. Let's go ahead, Jason. Just a quick reminder too, if you post questions and we have time after, we will answer them verbally. Some of them are getting answered live and we're publishing the answers, but some of them we might save to the end and queue up as we go. Okay, next. Oh, we have build slides? That's what I get for, yeah, just fill it out. That's what I get for copying Kent's or Kim's slide, which, by the way, the spell checker was, everything was red squiggly, Kim. So what happened for us in 2002 on the config side? You know, we finished coding in CM 2002, January, February, and then, you know, the pandemic hit, the whole team moved to working from home, from where we finished doing customer tab deployments, released CM22 from home, which, you know, is actually a huge accomplishment for the engineering team. I'm sure you all have hit these same kind of challenges of things that you just always used to do at the office, and now you had to find new creative ways to do it. This actually gave the product team a lot of empathy for the challenge of tech and everything having to work remote. And in that time, we kind of rethought what's our major themes for ConfigMan 2006. You know, we pivoted, we focused on things that would help most for remote learning and remote work. We have a lot of education that are customers. We also obviously a lot of remote workers. And we very quickly pivoted on some things we already had in the pipeline, but also adding new scenarios and new features. You know, a lot of investment in CMG, a lot of investment in tenant attach and cloud attach, because that actually helps, as Kim called out. You know, you now with a cloud console have a little bit more accessibility to your functionality from anywhere. You know, many features too, and Kim talked about this too, started releasing on both the on-prem and service components, which means we needed to ship something on-prem and then we need to light something on the service. But this also means that now innovation is coming every month. And you know, really at Ignite last year, we talked about ConfigMan and Intune kind of converging into this thing we call Microsoft Endpoint Manager. I think we're really starting to see this too in how they ship together and innovate together. And we bring customer functionality from the combined products at speed faster than we did on the ConfigMan side. We kind of nicknamed the ConfigMan 2006 release, we called it our work from home release, because we built it from home and we focused on a lot of work from home features. You know, we're super proud of that release. And, you know, 2010, second release, we're basically doing from home. And we're pretty much engineering complete on it. I want to say we are actually deployed to all of our TAP customers and just looking through to see where we're at. And so you could expect ConfigMan 2010 to come publicly available in the next week or two. It's always challenging to balance when we're going to ship with a US holiday in the middle of the week next week, but you know, we're getting really close. There's some exciting functionality there. Next, Jason. So, you know, I always throw up some stat slides, and it's just, especially this year, because it doesn't feel like November to me. It feels like April or May, maybe June. But time just really compressed this year. But it's good to look back over the last 12 months, what really has happened. So 3 more production releases, 2002, 2006, 2010, every 4 months like clockwork. That makes 16 production releases of current branch since we first started shipping in 1511, and consistently every 4 months. And this stat, you know, it's pretty interesting. Just the number of customers that stay upgraded to recent or new builds. So 75% of customers are on the latest 2 production builds. Almost half the customers are on the latest. You know, it's just an upgrade velocity that to me shows that customers are both excited about the innovation that we're delivering, but also feel good about our reputation on quality. You know, sometimes we miss a thing here or there, and we also are super passionate and super focused on delivering hotfixes quickly when we do. That happened a couple times in the last month. But you know, I really am excited about how many customers stay up to date on builds and how fast they upgrade. In fact, this is super interesting. We were worried when back in February, March, April last year that upgrades for ConfigMan would slow down with the pandemic and all the challenges to tech and IT. And they actually haven't. 2006 was deployed by customers as quick as any previous EM release, even with the pandemic challenges. That's super interesting. Because for sure IT is harder than it was before. But the fact that customers are continuing to upgrade ConfigMan is a good thing. Shipped 15 more tech previews in the last 12 months, including previews to Intune and the service. 7,200 code check-ins, which are improvements or bug fixes during the year. So that's a lot of code that we continue to touch and improve and listen to feedback. Bug reports. If you haven't used in-console feedback to give us a smiley or a frown, those are very real-time. Give us feedback on where we made mistakes or where our design still needs improvements, or even if you want to give us positive feedback, it also helps us reinforce that we're making the right decisions. So most of those are directed by customer feedback and talking to customers. And especially now this year, without being able to go connect to customers directly or face-to-face or in conferences like MMS, we're super dependent on feedback channels like this and in-console feedback. All right, what's next? All right, so this is a slide. I've been building this slide basically for 5 years, and it's just interesting to see how we continue to grow. Brad talked about it, Ignite, and if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go back and watch. But Microsoft Endpoint Manager, almost 200 million machines. Next slide. We continue to really see the adoption and the growth. And some of you that have been involved with deploying ConfigMan for a long time, or this whole journey, this really, I feel as a community, we've really done something amazing here by partnering together. You give us feedback, give us ideas, give us problems, we give technology, and we built a product and a community and a technology out there that's doing amazing things and growing. All right, next. So what's next? So what will 2021 look like? We just talked about what the last 12 months were. So what do we look forward to? Hopefully some return back to normal. But some things I think have changed for forever. So what's next? Next, Jason. So there's a quote that Jason found from Bill Gates. My prediction would be that over 50% of business travel and over 30% of days in the office will go away. Think about, some of the things that we're living with now maybe have changed temporarily and they go back, but some things I think have become the new norm. And so what does that mean for IT? So next. And as much as the world has moved to work from home, or what I sometimes like to call live at work, these phrases I think we have to rethink, and they have new meanings. So what does it mean to bring your own device? What does device asset management mean now? I just sat down and saw that this is my son's Chromebook power monitor that has like a written in pen asset, which obviously the school owns this, and I don't know what they do to track these or lose them, but device asset management just got a lot harder. Remote provisioning, remote management, work from anywhere, and really means for IT, it means IT from anywhere to everywhere, right? If we allow anyone to work from anywhere, that means IT has to manage them everywhere, and IT themselves have to be able to do it from anywhere. It's just a whole new set of challenges for us all to think about. Next. So what's next for 2012? What will 2021 look like? So first big announcement, after 5 years of shipping ConfigMan every 4 months, 02, 06, or 10, we are renumbering the releases to be 03, 07, and 11. We're not actually moving the months that we ship them, and Kim kind of joked about this earlier, that it's November and we don't have the 2010 release. This is a necessity of us actually aligning better with how Intune ships and shipping a lot of stuff together. So just for our own engineering sanity, we needed to align the config-man naming with the Intune naming for releases. But we'll still ship every 4 months, and then they'll be shipping the same rhythm and months that they had previously. This aligns, so it just aligns better with how we think about Microsoft Endpoint Manager and one big product. Next, there's actually, so the missed opportunity, I know, and this has been a joke running, I think, for a while, is if we would have done it this year, then we would have had 2003, 2007, and that would have been very confusing. We waited a little longer. We started in 2103, but starting next year, our releases will be numbered differently. But it doesn't change how often we ship or actually the months that we ship.
Yeah, and it's worth calling out here that this would be a non-event for you, the customer, unless you were planning with change control. And we know that lots of customers do create their change control planning for the next 12 months, and we're just copying and pasting and using the 2, 6, 10 rhythm that we built up, and that was one of the reasons that we kept it for so long. But as David says, as we need to navigate some confusion that we had internally as we were shipping features that were hitting not just Config Manager, not just Intune, but then Autopilot, it just made a lot of sense for us to align it. So there's another slide later on where we talk about the progression here, but it's really to double down on the fact that nothing is going to change from your perspective as the customer when it comes to the upgrade, planning the upgrade. It's just going to be the name that changes. Everything else is pretty much going to stay the same. It's just to help your planning a little bit that we're giving you some advance warning rather than in March next year, suddenly hitting you with 2103 and you're like, oh, no, we were planning on 2102 and we now need to go back to our cab to go get approval for this because they're going to think it's different. So that's why we're giving some runway and some prep time.
In fact, that was our biggest concern about changing this is for 6 years almost now, we've been in a rhythm of predictability and naming. And I think that might be a record for Microsoft product. But we were worried about the impact it might have on change control. So we definitely want to give you a heads up. And even though we changed the names, just to restate, we're not changing the months that we ship. They'll be the same as before. All right, thanks,
and
Jason.
You're going to have to forgive us because we probably will still accidentally refer to them as 02, 6, and 10 for a little while. It'll take us a little bit of time to get out of that rhythm.
All right, Rob, I think you're up.
I guess really the main thing, Kent talked a lot about cloud attach and co-management in particular, and he talked around how he sees co-management and tenant attach as being two separate different things. That's not quite how we see it, but it also is how we see it. And the banner here is how we think about how we have customers and how we build value for customers to attach to the cloud. The headline is that we want you to go attach to the cloud and get the value that we're building. And there's different ways that we are able to deliver that. Co-management is nothing new. We've been talking about co-management in some way, shape, or form for coming up on 4 years now in terms of when we first started discussing this with customers. And co-management is really about the enrollment of the devices, enrolling that Windows 10 device and being able to leverage functionality that Intune delivers over that MDM channel. Tenant attach is really parallel. And as Kent touched on, it's iterative. You can do both. We'd love you to do both with all of your devices. But tenant attach is really about cloudifying and adding more cloud capabilities to the existing Config Manager client. So lifting up, David touched on, hey, we now have the cloud console and we have loads of plans there to deliver more and more cloud console functionality for Config Manager over time. But that's how they boil down to being discretely different. One is really the client being attached through co-management, and then tenant attach is, as the name describes, you're attaching the tenant and you're just syncing the devices, and it enables all that good stuff for cloud-based functionality to your existing on-prem devices. And then CMG as well. We consider CMG to be cloud attached. And I don't know if people have seen the blog that we published about 6 weeks ago now, published by Danny Gilroy, who's on the same team as Jason is, and really just kind of stepping through. And there isn't an order that you have to take in order to get these. They're all iterative, and you can take them in any order, and it is about how you get the value and what makes sense for your business. But the blog that Danny put out was really, it was an op-ed piece almost of, hey, if I was doing cloud attached, this is how I'd do it. I'd do CMG first because it's instant value. It's big bang for your buck in the initial setup, and then tenant attach, again, really low friction. Upload your devices, start to benefit from those new functionalities. Kent showed off CM Pivot earlier. Really proud of that being now in the cloud and being available to help desk operators. Timeline is a great one that we announced at Ignite last year, and that's in private preview, public preview right now. So being able to provide not only cloud functionality for your config manager devices in the cloud, but also new functionality for your devices in the cloud. So tenant attached being that phase 2, and also being able to leverage things like endpoint analytics through that channel that you then create. And then finally, co-management, simply because there's more of a pull to get co-management set up. It needs hybrid Azure AD join. It needs you to have certain places, certain pieces in place. And also in terms of some of the workloads that you want to move, some are fairly quick and easy to do because it's, say, conditional access, and you can enable that functionality on day 0 and start to leverage it. There's nothing to migrate. But then as customers might be looking to simplify their updates process and move to Windows updates for business, that's more of a migration and a plan that they need to work through in order to leverage, simplifying their patching strategy through co-management. So headline is go cloud attach, use one, use all, use what makes sense for your business. And that's if you saw my Ignite sessions or any of the stuff that we did around Ignite this year, it really is about the cloud value and building value that you get by attaching to the cloud and augmenting your existing management techniques. And then another one that we've seen huge amounts of interest in Twitter internally, people reaching out, asking about. It's been a long time coming. We first started some of the pieces for autopilot into co-management back in 2019. We first announced this at Ignite when I actually got to stand on a stage rather than doing it all remotely. An autopilot into co-management is really us looking to bring autopilot to be a co-management workload. And what I mean by that is that co-management workloads allow you to benefit from the cloud while still leveraging your existing on-prem investments. Be it having some applications come from Intune versus some come from Config Manager, be it enabling functionality like conditional access while everything else still comes from Configuration Manager. But autopilot into co-management is really the orchestration across all of those various services and cogs of MEM to make provisioning a co-management workload. So in 1910, we added the ability for you to bootstrap a task sequence as part of the client install, and we've seen lots of customers start to use that as part of autopilot. Various things have been missing that we've been working on. Not plugging into the enrollment status page has been a big one for customers to work on. And then also in terms of the policy that gets set. So when Config Manager gets installed during autopilot provisioning, Config Manager is the default policy. So it becomes the default source for all policy. And if you're deploying other things via Intune at the same time, it can then become problematic to your provisioning experience. So coming very soon, we're in private preview with a couple of customers right now, and hopefully we'll have it in public preview early in 2021, is the final pieces to enable full or end-to-end autopilot into co-management. So not only will you be able to have that task sequence that installs and be tracked through the enrollment status page, but also if you want the policy authority to sit with Intune, you can specify that in the new co-management policy that we've been building out, and you can call that task sequence and do the provisioning. And really the benefit here is that you can start to simplify your provisioning process and not have to be in the business of managing and maintaining an imaging process. You can use the signature images that come with your devices straight from the OEM, have that shiny experience of the user going through self-provisioning, unboxing the device, not having to have coffee stains and 3 layers of sellotape that's been resealed the box as it's gone through the various provisioning processes, ship the device directly to the user in the same way that lots of organizations ship their mobile devices direct to their user. but have the device be provisioned and be able to benefit from the 20 years of investment that you have in task sequences to be able to go do the post-deployment configuration, laying down apps, setting the registry keys, all of the various things that most customers are used to doing as they provision devices. And as I say, we're in our final stages of we're in our final stages of development right now. We're just going into private preview with some customers and following our 2010 TAP, and hopefully that'll be available in public preview sometime early next year. I really like this graphic that Kent used in the beginning of his slide, so I stole it. David kind of unburied the lead as he talked about the various reasons that we're making that move to be 2103, 2107, and 2111. But to me, it's the latest in a number of developments that we've introduced over the time of current branch to really make Config Manager as service-like as possible. And it goes all the way back to the advent of current branch. And you've probably heard the terms easy setup. If you've upgraded more than once, you've probably seen the term easy setup in the logs. And really, that was the first move that we made as a product group to make Config Manager service-like. And the term that gets used or was used a lot at the time is SaaSified. It's not quite software as a service, but we want to be as close there as possible. And that starts with that 3 times a year release that we've been in that motion for the past 5 years. And then if we jump forward, we moved to the co-management announcement when we announced that Ignite in 2017. And that was really where we started bringing together the co-engineering of the Config Manager and the Intune pieces. And not a term you hear us use a lot anymore, but if you remember, we used to pitch that as the bridge, the way to migrate. And the feedback we got was customers aren't ready for it to be the migration. So we pivoted, and it's more about the cloud value and how you can use both together. But co-management was still that very close co-engineering of the two features. And then we moved forward to, again, we're using Ignite as the click stops, but Ignite 2019, where we announced tenant attach and those Config Manager devices being able to show in the Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. And this was really the genesis of Cloud Console. And we really started getting not just the co-engineering and it being engineered to work together, but now we were orchestrating across 2 fairly separate release cycles, new functionality that was going to ship together. And then we jumped forward into 2020. So the beginning of this year, it feels like a decade ago, but in 2002, we shipped device sync to enable that tenant attach. And within that 2002 release was all of the on-prem code that we needed to go build all of the features like Timeline and CM Pivot and Resource Explorer. It was all in 2002, but it didn't launch into preview and availability until sometime after. So we now have the ability where functionality is shipped in the core code when you upgrade at a point in time. And then as we get the UI ready and we're able to start enabling it for customers, we're able to start flighting it, turning it on, and all of a sudden that new functionality can just show up. And it's really this that then means that we have confusion internally with the versions, because you need a decoder ring to understand that, well, when I'm talking about the 2009 release, that I'm not talking about Config Manager 2009, I'm talking about the Intune 2009, and then we move forward to 2010, and is it Config Manager or Intune? So just so that all of our engineering teams are working on the same sprint at the same time, because the way it works is that at the moment, pretty much the Config Manager Tech Preview is one ahead of where Intune is. So just trying to align that so that when we're working on a sprint on the same Wednesday in January, everybody's working towards the same release of Config Manager, the same release of Intune, and it all just aligns with the correct numbering so that we're all aligned and that there's not confusion and we don't need that decoder ring. But as I said earlier, 2103, 2107, 2012, it's pretty much the same release schedule. It's going to be pretty much the same release dates. Not that we're consistent with our release dates. Things move within a day, a week of one another, depending on when we started the sprint and how many TAP customers we've had, and so on and so forth. So you'll have that same kind of flexibility a little bit, but really in terms of what that means, the only thing that's going to change is the numbers. And as Dave said, yeah, I'm absolutely gutted that we didn't get to do it last year, because as confusing as it was, it just amused me that we could have been shipping config manager current branch 2003, config manager current branch 2007, and I'd have probably tried to petition to move 2011 out to 2012 just so that we could complete that trifecta and have a complete rerun of all the versions before. But 2021, hopefully things will start to open up. We'll start to be able to do conferences, and we'll be able to talk to you in person about 2103, 2107, and 2111.
All right, thanks, Rob. Jason, what's next? I think we're down to just a couple. Oh, it's still Rob.
Is it? Okay, I can talk about this. So Dave talked about some numbers already. You know, one of the things that we've had a lot of interest and people asking about is, you know, how about CMG? I bet CMG's been popular in the past 8 months since work from anywhere became a thing. So these numbers are a little bit out of date. These are what we pulled in September. We've seen a 3-fold increase in customers deploying CMG and a massive 4 times increase in clients, you know, actively, daily active clients connecting to Cloud Management Gateway. You know, early on in the pandemic, I was 12 hours a day speaking to customers about CMG and split tunnel and helping customers react to this new reality of work from anywhere. And you know, CMG was a huge part of that for a lot of customers and still continues to be so. I've had customers that have said how smug they felt because they already had a CMG, customers that were happy that they were able to go quickly deploy it and quickly get on top. But yeah, we have seen and we continue to see a huge usage of CMG to enable the work from anywhere, or as David likes to call it, live at work. And then the final really cool stat is one from Microsoft internally. By using split tunneling and CMG, and more importantly, being able to pull updates from Microsoft Update rather than having to go over the VPN, we're saving a whopping 156 terabytes a day in VPN traffic because we're able to divert to CMG, Cloud Distribution Point, and Microsoft Update to go pull that traffic. So, you know, it's a huge saving that we see both internally and at customers. And then the final one, remote control via CMG, been huge interest and surge in that. It had been in pretty much stasis since we put it into tech preview a few years ago. We'd had very little feedback and usage of it in the tech preview, so we hadn't really been able to move that forward at all in production. We've been working on that since the beginning of the pandemic, pretty much. It's not going to be in 2010. I've already seen a couple of questions on the chat. It's not going to be in 2010. We still need usage, so if you're interested in it, I urge you, go download and set up a tech preview site, try the scenario and give us the feedback, because it's a huge part of how we determine when something's ready to move into a production release. So go try it out, use it in tech preview, send us the feedback. Even if the feedback is a big thumbs up or a big smile from the console saying, yep, it works exactly as I need it to. It's just all good feedback that we take into our sprint reviews and our ship rooms just to make sure that we have the confidence and the quality to be able to release it and make it available for broad use.
Yeah, and also if you think you're brave enough to try it in production and you have Microsoft field support, have them email Rob and I, and we might consider flighting it on for you in production, because we need that kind of coverage also.
Alrighty, I think I was going to cover this one. So this is 2010. I think this got mentioned a couple times. Dave mentioned that the 2010 tap is just about to wind up. So these are some of the features. I think there was about a list of double this length of other features, but these were the notable ones we kind of picked out. A lot of them are still focusing on that work from anywhere scenario, right? That same thing that we've clearly been talking about a lot over the last 9 months. The big one is probably the one kind of right in the middle, deploy an operating system over CMG using site-based bootable media. So lots of words there to mean exactly what. OSD over CMG, right? OSD to your internet clients. Can't solve your bandwidth problems, but a lot of the MVPs have tried this out already. Some of our TAP customers have tried it out as well. I wouldn't say this is a replacement for autopilot. This is potentially a different scenario for those machines that are totally dead in the field, but that's kind of up to you to really figure out how you want to do this. But there's a couple of good blog posts, like I said, from the other MVPs out there on doing this. So this is that pipe dream that we've had for a long time, is exactly like I said, OSD over the internet, right? That's pretty cool. The second one up there is a blocking piece for some folks, right? They have CSP subscriptions. Something's a nice one. So we are iterating on CMG. It's not just a dead piece that's sitting there. We're adding a lot of work and functionality in there as well. Some other kind of niceties. The fixed width font just makes the console look better, right? We all stare at the console probably far too much, and so making it look nicer. Syntax highlighting for scripts. So anyone who uses scripts, we're not editing scripts in the console, so right, it's not really a helper there, but when you're looking at the scripts, being able to pick things out, just being able to figure out what's going on with them, that definitely has some value. There are 3 in there as well around collections, really the third and the fourth item, and then, I don't know, it's near the bottom, the view collection relationships. So the eval view, right, we have that in a standalone tool today, but now that's going to be directly in the console. And combine that with the view collection relationships. Now you can actually start seeing what's going on in your environment. The one tap customer that I'm working with, right off the bat, right after upgrade, they had one of their collections, and I don't remember the exact time. It was something along the lines of 4 hours for it to initially update itself and for the query to be evaluated. And so they had no idea that this collection was taking that long before. So we looked at it. We got one of the developers to look at it and review it, and we found some issues with it. We were able to improve, right? And so you could have certainly pulled out the query evaluation viewer before, but now this is directly in the console. And since you have this nice little, and it's a picture, right? If you guys have seen the graphs that we have in the console for the view collection relationship, so now you can see, well, do I actually have spaghetti going on with this collection included here and this collection included here, and you know, some near round robin referencing going on, which would really be bad, and near excludes, and being able to visualize that has a lot of value when you're evaluating this, right? So if you have a collection that takes a little while to evaluate, great, but now if that collection is included in a lot of other collections or excluded, you potentially have a bigger impact. So you want to be able to see those. So I don't think there's anything life-changing or massively different anything in 2010. Maybe the OSD is for a lot of people, particularly in the work from anywhere. But you know, it's continuing to iterate on all the cool things that we've continued to do over the years. So lots of kudos out to the devs that worked on all of this. And over on the right there, right? So tap ending this week, and Dave already called this out. With the holiday next week here in the US, we're not totally sure, but hey. Definitely before the holiday in December, the holiday period, we'll have this out in opt-in, which most people refer to as fast-ring.
What do we call that Friday after Thanksgiving? Do we call it Black Friday? Sorry, I'm losing brain cells.
I'm assuming that that's probably going to get renamed at some point, but yeah, that's what it's traditionally referred to.
Last year we had a Black Friday release. I remember, which worked well. But
there you go.
You know, I'm not making any promises or predictions.
But over the past year, right, Friday's been just about every day, hasn't it?
Yeah.
All righty. On to the next slide. There's just a big question mark on this next slide. So this is yours.
Sorry, didn't update the slide. Our person that was going to join us last minute is dealing with some other things. So, you know, that's 2020. So insights-driven IT, this is the theme of everything that we're doing that I'm most excited and most passionate about. You know, we talk about, especially with the 2006, 2010 release, that focus on enabling more manage from anywhere and you know, work IT from anywhere to anywhere, and how we would attach the cloud to enable that, and you know, cloud UI and you know, real time. You know, if you haven't seen timeline feature from the admin UI in the cloud, go in real time down to the client to troubleshoot, that's one of the most interesting things. But even saying all that, what I'm most excited about is what we're going to be able to do with data and analytics, and you know, by attaching, you know, tens of thousands of customers out there with hundreds of millions of machines and data points up to the cloud, and using machine learning on that data to bring back to customers insights on what they can do to improve their management, to improve their end user experiences. That's what gets me up in the morning these days. That's what I'm getting really excited about. And we're just starting to scratch the surface with some of the things that are showing up in the builds and in release or in preview. You know, things like device health, what apps are crashing, what drivers are crashing, boot times, performance, startup times, you know, and our ability in the future to take that data and look at it together holistically and bring you back insights of, you know, this policy will help your end users with a better experience, or this app is older and this newer one has better performance, or you need to stop the upgrade of this app because it's lowering the end user experience on your pilot collections. That to me is one of the biggest changes, one of the biggest innovations that we're doing in the industry in a decade. And so I encourage you, you know, if you have time, go back and watch some of our demos from Ignite, or some of the functionality that's already released and previewed. This is available for FigMan customers if you tenant attach. Some of it's available through code management. You get more depth analysis, but tenant attach is a very simple, low risk thing that you can do that opens up a lot of possibilities. And it doesn't change anything you're doing on-prem with ConfigMan or what you're managing today, but it does give you more UI, and it does give you more data, and it does give you more things you can do. So I'd encourage you to tenant attach and start looking at some of our endpoint analytics and our productivity scores and things that give you more insight. And I think with that, Jason, I think we're on to Q&A. All right, so and Kim and Kent, if you guys are still awake over there in Europe, we could comb through the questions. Some of them we published, some of them I left just so that we could answer verbally. So Rob or Jason, if you guys see any questions you want to answer, just fire away.
Yeah, there was one I was just typing in right now. The question's from Andy D about, are there plans to replace Software Center with Company Portal app or merge them? As installing apps from Memac will make them show up in the Company Portal app, but not in Software Center currently. So the current path and trajectory is basically to make Company Portal the one-stop shop. So I wouldn't say replace Software Center. I think there's always probably going to be a few tricks that Software Center does that Company Portal doesn't have. But it's not just about those two either. It's about myaccount.azure.com or azure.net or whatever it is, where you go get your BitLocker key when it gets escrowed up to Azure AD, and you can see all of your devices there as well. So that's a third portal for end users to potentially have to go to. So being able to merge all of those, right? We had that separation in the past with the application catalog, but now we've added, even more complexity to that. So that's the trajectory. Starting in, I don't know when it was. I think it was in June, maybe it was in July. Company Portal actually will already show applications from Configuration Manager, even if you're not co-managed, even if you're not tenant attached. Company Portal just knows how to do that. So we've already started on that, and it's going to continue on that path as well. We are showing the BitLocker key as well. There's a private preview for that in the web-based Company Portal, so that'll go in there as well, right? And that's from Azure AD. So all those pieces and parts that end users need to get to, a one-stop shop is a great place for it.
Yeah, and we a lot of changes like this, especially if you are really entrenched in history and policy, aren't switches that you can just throw overnight. But we did build for Company Portal. As Jason said, apps are starting to show there. Patching doesn't, and task sequences don't. But if you're starting to push a lot of apps from the Intune side, then we gave the ability for you to say, for end user experience, is it Software Center or is it Company Portal, and you could control what that is. And then when you feel you're ready, you could push to Company Portal. And we know we're not done, so give us feedback on things that we could still do to improve. Rob, I see there's a question and actually a conversation on RBAC. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that, but tenant attach RBAC.
Yeah, I was exchanging some messages with someone in the private chat. RBAC for tenant attach. There's a couple of things we did with the initial release of tenant attach. One is we focused on individual devices because it allowed us to conveniently ignore some of the complexities of grouping that we need for RBAC. The way RBAC works today for tenant attach is config manager will enforce whatever RBAC you have on-prem. So if an IT operator can't do something in the config manager console, they won't be able to do the equivalent action in the admin center. So if, like me, you don't trust Jason to run CM Pivot, then he won't be able to go shortcut that in the admin center and run it there rather than in the console. We are heavily thinking about, and it's taking up a lot of my time at the moment, thinking about and figuring out how we go solve the big complexities of the who, what, where of RBAC and create that consolidated RBAC experience. So if you have feedback or opinion or comment, feel free to tweet me, at rob.york, or through your user voice, or through send a frown, send a smile in the console. I'm consolidating all that to feed into the discussions, and I think we have a good plan going forward. It's just not an overnight thing because, funnily enough, RBAC is really complex, and we need to do it correctly so that we don't break things for you, the collective customers.
Yeah, well, thanks, Rob. So a couple quick questions I think I can answer. One is from Jason, are there any plans to replace the legacy config man control panel with a modern settings app? This is something that I've struggled with for maybe 5 years. The reason is my intention is an end user should never have to go to the control panel app. If it's an admin, I understand they can go to the control panel app, but then I don't see a lot of benefit in moving the control panel app, which is not non-trivial amount of work. Just so our admins could find it. What the highest priority for me is if you think your end users need to go to the control panel app to do an action, we would rather move that to Software Center. And we've done that with things like sync policy now. So let us know what actions. I'd rather end users never go to the control panel app, and give us feedback what those actions are so we can move them to somewhere more available for end users. Let's see. Do you see any other questions, Robert, Jason, you want to take?
There's the one that just came in about key escrow, allowing untrusted domain key escrow, and I don't remember the answer to that one. I'm sure I've talked to Frederick about it, but I don't remember the answer because right now it's relying on domain auth, which is what MBAM did. But I think that we re-architected that slightly to allow that, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think, Jason, there was another one there on BitLocker over CMG and benefits of escrowing the keys to AAD or not. I don't know if that was that same question or.
No, that one's slightly different, but.
You might have insight there.
Trying to find that question specifically. Is it published or?
No, it's not published. It's still in there.
Okay. Any whispers? No, that's a different one. So I guess, I mean, I can talk about that one in general if I can't find that question specifically. Oh, here we go. BitLocker over CMG is huge for us. We've been in limbo since this whole thing started. I've been asking myself, are there advantages over storing the keys in AAD? There are some differences. One of the things you cannot do in AAD today is limit who has access to a recovery key. So from a user's perspective, right, a user can always go to that My Account portal that I talked about earlier. And as long as they're associated with that device, their BitLocker key will show up there. There are many orgs that consider that not the optimal path and don't desire that. They want the users to go through the help desk to get the BitLocker key so that it's not just revealed. So in Config Manager, we can control that by selectively publishing the portals. But if your keys are escrowed to AAD, you have no explicit control over that today. It's something the BitLocker team themselves are investigating and trying to get changed on the AAD side. But there's been no traction at this point in time. So that, I'd say that's probably the biggest difference today once we ship this feature, right? Today, because we don't have that feature, systems that are out on the internet clearly can't escrow their keys. But once we ship that feature, then it's pretty much same. There's probably some richer auditing in Config Manager. There's, just better control over things generally in Config Manager since it is a local database as well. The security folks could have some concerns there as well. So just based on where they're actually stored. But functionality wise, once again, once we ship that feature in 2010, the only difference I think will be exposing the keys via the portals to the users.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Let's see.
Oh, there's a good one. MEMCM or MECM?
That one's easy. That's MEMCM. Sorry, it's hard for us to browse through questions and find things sometimes.
Yeah, anybody else seeing one that we to call out that we want to talk about?
There's one on orchestration groups, and I'm gonna, because I can hijack this and ask my own question, I'm gonna step on it a little bit. The question is actually about orchestration groups respecting maintenance windows. I didn't really have that issue myself, but I have had issues where they just get corrupted and they go failed, and I actually just stopped using them.
Is that on the newest builds though, Brian? Because that was one of the issues with old orchestration groups before we did the re-architecture, is sometimes locks got orphaned, and so nothing could patch. But I don't think that should be happening in, say, 2006 and newer, so if the clients are upgraded.
What you did was, when we ran the upgrade, you took what were the old server groups, and you migrated them. That didn't work too well. And what we actually found out were there were hidden old server group settings stuck, and we had to, basically clean the client out and flush that. But then we went back. We thought, okay, it's all clean. It's good to go now. At any given day after patch Tuesday, I go and look at my orchestration groups, and they show failed. And that little right click, pull it out of a failure state, that doesn't do anything. I put a little frown in and just hope for the best on it, because it does have promise, but I kind of don't feel that it's reliable right now because people stop patching servers.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to. It's the first I'm hearing on that, so we'll have to look into that. The one question that was asked that Brian hijacked is, when are they going to honor maintenance windows? And they should. As far as I know, they do right now. They don't honor maintenance windows. I think that's a bug.
Yeah, they should.
And then there was another orchestration group about having them not run for SCEP definitions. That one's unfortunately hard, but I understand the ask and it makes sense. It's just because the client architecture can't tell the difference between like a definition and a patch. But it's that ask makes sense. Let's see. Scroll bar in this app is really hard.
Dave, will changing the order of how definitions are downloaded, could that be a workaround?
I don't know. The challenge, Kent, the architecture is the client doesn't try to do any kind of patching until it can get an orchestration slot. And then once it does all patching that it can.
Yeah, so that happens obviously before the download.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is another improvement we thought about in orchestration groups is, could we pre-download before the machine takes a lock on the group, so you don't have to wait you don't have to download in serial. You can do that in parallel across all the devices. But yeah, it's I feel we made some huge improvements in OGs this year, and now it's about prioritizing the next steps that we would go do. It's good to see a lot of questions, a lot of interest on them, and definitely I need to go follow up on what's happening at Brian's company with his failures. Let's see, there's, Rob, I don't know if we need more detail on this one, but there's someone asking about documentation on code management to autopilot. I think that's just coming, right, in the next couple of months.
I think Rob left us. So yeah, I mean, that was Rob's whole session. So I think Rob had to drop for something, it looks like. But yeah, from what I know, there's the whole co-management scenario, and that's what Rob talked about in there specifically. There are things set to drop within the next couple of months that are going to continue to help that scenario. It's got its rough patches, and so yeah, they're trying to work through those right now. Some of that is Windows work as well too. So. There are lots of questions about, well, I answered these a couple of times around preview features like orchestration groups or preview features. And I guess people are questioning whether they should be using preview features. And I guess just to reiterate, we say this one a lot, but it's worth reinforcing is that, you know, preview features are supported in production 100%.
They're actually not called preview features.
What are they called now?
They pre-release features.
That's it. Yep. Everyone calls them preview. Good call out. So pre-release features are supported 100% in production. So you can call support and get support on them. You can file bugs on them. The reason they're still in pre-release is because they just haven't met their functional goals yet. There's still pieces that we're working on.
And there was a good example in the question. Someone asked if application groups are going to come out of pre-release. And there's just a couple more feature improvements we want on application groups, and then it will come out of pre-release. Let's see, there's one, was the Azure Virtual Machine set the answer for getting CSP only customers access to the CMG? Yes. So that is coming soon. It's in tech preview if you try it and give us feedback. A few of our TAP customers are trained on 2010. And then depending on how that feedback and quality goes, we'll make a decision on it if it's ready in 2010. Are there any features related to Defender AV, ATP coming? Yes. So this is a good example of our cloud strategy. So I'll use the firewall as an example. We used to have in ConfigMan a dedicated firewall feature, but ATP is a technology that's much better at managing that kind of security and configuration. So now what we have is in our cloud UI, you can set the firewall settings and you can push them down to ConfigMan, even if those devices aren't enrolled into Intune. So for example, on servers or other Win 10. So now with this new model, basically Defender logic on ConfigMan becomes like an appliance, and the UI is going to be in the cloud, and you can manage those. And if you look at what we've done with Firewall, that's a good example of a bunch more of those kind of improvements we have in the pipeline that are coming.
Lots more coming in here, so we can take up some more time here. So there's a licensing one at the end around co-management and tenant attach, which continues to cause tons of confusion even internally. That one might be worth talking about really quick because we did make that license grant. That was what, last year, right? Around this time, it was in New Orleans. It was around that time, in our Ignite timeframe. The license grant for anyone who owned Config Manager also had, or were entitled to licenses to manage Windows devices via co-management and co-management only. That does not include AADP1, so it does leave out scenarios like autopilot. It does leave out one scenario that is involved with co-management, which is the auto enrollment, right? So there's lots of discussions internally on where we need to go with that one. There is a frequently asked questions though on the doc site that Aaron maintains, and it explicitly addresses that, so that you still do need AADP1 if you really, really want to take advantage of that additional license grant. So I will actually go find that real quick, and I will post it as an answer to that question as well. Kim, Kent, Greg, you guys see any other ones worth that we should answer? There's some Intune ones in here specifically.
Yeah, but it's those questions are like, can we make the log files great? That would be a good idea.
User voice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think Kathy posted something earlier. There's rumors of user voice going away. It's a nuanced answer, but as far as Config Manager goes, user voice is not going away. So keep posting there, keep using the in console. I think Dave called that out earlier. You know, those in-console feedbacks, and now that I'm on the other side, I see that directly. That goes directly into the pipeline for the devs. They really do see it. We really do leverage it as well. I've created a couple DCRs recently, and I went digging through user voice to find support for those DCRs. So it's not just my word, right? Part of my role on the CAT team is going and finding evidence, and I usually work directly with customers to do that. But user voice is another place that I go dig up evidence as well. So definitely keep posting on user voice and upvoting things.
There's an interesting, I don't know if it's a question or a note, but it's, you know, from Joseph, how can we offer our customers preview features? I think, was that the one you were just answering before? But he's continuing when there is a chance that it might be discontinued in the next release. And I mean, to me, it's a really good question, but it's also, you know, welcome to to the new world here, because with all the features releases we see, I mean, it's, I don't even know how many features we have seen in this year, including preview features. But I mean, I understand that question coming from a consultant, and I don't have an answer to it, but sometimes, you know, when you give advice to your customers, it's not only about what can be fixed now, but it's also, you know, to set a direction. And often the features that we see, they're setting a direction for what will come. Maybe that specific feature won't make it, but the others are similar features very often make it in, so the direction is still the same. I don't know if that answer makes sense, but that's kind of how I present that to customers. And I mean, the CMG was a preview feature for a long time. We used it in production.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I think the only feature that I remember that was ever pre-released that got totally canned was whatever orchestration groups replaced. Server groups, was it called? Yeah. And in reality, I mean, it was more of a revolution. It wasn't a, you know, just a complete canning of that solution. So, but I don't remember any other ones that we just completely got rid of at all. So,
yeah. In fact, you know, Aaron keeps a good doc up to date of features, and then when they went to pre-release and when they were released from pre-release, and yeah. You know, we look at that every release. I want to say we're down to like 5 themes that might be left on that. So
yeah, there are always things that are deprecated, right? But that goes across the board. Windows deprecates things. You know, every product deprecates things. When they came up earlier today, we deprecated Linux support 2 years ago. So it is what it is. I mean, we make those decisions based upon, you know, customer cases, and we evaluate who's using it, what the impact is to those organizations financially as well as technically, and those are what those decisions are based on. So if we go in a direction you don't like, that's still, you know, get in touch with your account team, get in touch with, you know, post your user voices, those kinds of things, because that's how you get hurt. But we're not doing things just to hurt people, for sure.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I made one more scrub through the questions, and some of these we may look at answering offline or in Twitter, but I just want to thank everybody. You know, it's been for me, I'm on 2 decades now working on SMS and ConfigMan, and for Current Branch, which we started in 2014 and shipped in 2015, it's been an awesome 5-6 years of, and more than anything, I feel that the success is due to the community and the customers and the passion and you know, the kinds of people that show up at MMS, whether it's in Minnesota or New Orleans or Arizona, and just this kind of the power of community we have in kind of our set of products and our tech challenges, our industry. Super grateful for it. It's the fuel that drives the innovation and the passion on our team, for sure. So just want to say thanks for everybody. It's good to kind of have this State of the Union to kind of reflect back and think, you know, where were we 12 months ago? What have we done? What might we do in the next 12 months? But also just to look back at where we've come in 5 years. And you know, if anyone could predict where we might be 5 years from now, it'd be really interesting, because I think 5 years ago, very few people would predict you know, where we're at now with technology and the problems we're facing, you know, problems that we've solved, things that have gotten easier, things that have gotten hard. But if we look back at how, for me and for my team, how we've kind of innovated through that, it's the community, it's the ideas, it's the passion, it's the feedback, it's the you educating us and teaching us, you know, what's unique about your business, what can make your end users experiences better or more productive. So keep the feedback coming. It's our most important fuel that drives how we think about things and how we innovate. So and so I just want to thank you. I wanted to thank Kent and Kim for joining us together today. You know, I've known these guys for a while. I missed seeing them this year in Redmond for the MVP conference. I miss seeing them going and visiting user groups and conferences. So it's good to see Kim and Kent. It's good to see you guys, and hopefully we can see each other in person. And thanks Brian and Greg and Wally for driving, being the behind the scenes, making this this event that I missed last May and in September, being able to kind of catch up. It's good. So thanks Brian.
Good seeing you.
Yeah, thanks, DJam, and thanks to all you guys who helped put the slide deck together and decide what you're going to show. I know that it was kind of last minute. We hope to have a real MMS and not have to do a virtual. This actually had no feel at all like, you know, when we're sitting there and you're watching Dune and Avi run mics and it's just like everybody's having a beer and you're having a good time. But at least from a practicality standpoint and a learning standpoint and grounding yourself and figuring out where are we now and where, you know, what have we done in the past year, it gives you a good feel to know how much to expect in the upcoming year when you've seen how much you've done before. So I appreciate everybody taking time today, and I appreciate Recast for sponsoring, which helps us pay for a laptop that we have to give away. Greg, do you have the name of the winner? Because we picked one.
We did, and let me flip back so I don't misspeak. Let me see here. Lots of silence. Mike Davis, congratulations.
Sweet, I recognize that name too.
There we go.
Thanks for the applause. That's awesome. So you'll appreciate the laptop. It's super high end. You can put a full lab on there and do anything you want to. Technically, it's really cool. What we're going to do from here is split off to a happy hour to anybody wants to go. We mentioned that earlier. I'm going to drop a Teams link in here. I think I can do it here. Control E. Ugh, that's an ugly URL. That might have worked. Maybe you guys will see that. The first 300 people who go there will get in. The rest, sorry, but that's the limitation of Teams. Teams Live lets more people join, but now you can't talk to each other. You can't get any interaction. So if you'd like to join us, you know, for an hour and just kind of hang out, join us over on that link. And again, thank you everybody else for attending today and helping out.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Yep. Have a good night or afternoon.